Zawadi wiped the sweat off her forehead with the back of her hand, her fingers still wet from the soapy water she had been using to scrub the kitchen floor. Her stepmother's voice rang through the house like a whip. "Zawadi, are you deaf? The plates in the sink won't wash themselves." She swallowed hard, her throat dry, her back ached from hours of cleaning and her hands were rough from scrubbing the floor. Outside the sun was setting, painting Oyani City in shades of gold and orange. Somewhere, laughter and music filled the air, but inside this mansion, her own home, Zawadi lived like a slave. Her younger sister Amani sat comfortably on the couch, scrolling through her phone. The difference between them was clear. Amani had been raised like a princess, while Zawadi was treated like a housemaid. It hadn't always been this way. There was a time when Zawadi had known love in this house. Her father adored her, especially after mother's death. For years, it was just the two of them. Then he remarried, and at first, things were good. Her stepmother had shown her kindness, even love. When Amani was born, Zawadi felt like she had gained a little sister to protect. But something changed. Slowly, her father grew distant. He stopped asking if she had eaten, stopped laughing with her like before. His new wife whispered in his ear, and soon Zawadi became an outsider in her own home. She was given all the chores, scolded for the smallest mistakes, and ignored when she needed love the most. Tonight was not different. With a heavy sigh, Zawadi stood up and went to the sink. As she washed the dishes, her stepmother and Amani sat at the dining table, enjoying a meal prepared by her cook. They didn't even acknowledge her. The pain in her heart was deep, but she had learned to hide it. Tomorrow, she will escape for a little while to the small shop down the street. That shop had become a safe place, not because of the grocery, but because of the man who worked there. A man whose eyes lit up when he saw her, a man who made her laugh when she had forgotten how to. She didn't know it yet, but that shopkeeper was about to change her life forever. The next morning, Zawadi hurried out of the house before anyone could pile more work on her. She clutched a small shopping list in her hand, though she barely cared about what she was supposed to buy. Her heart beat faster as she approached the little shop on the corner of the street, and there he was. His name was Malik. Tall with smooth, dark skin and a strong build, Malik had a presence that made people stop and take notice. But what Zawadi loved most was his smile. It was warm like the sun after a long rainy season. "Zawadi," he greeted her leaning on the counter. "I was starting to think you wouldn't come today." She laughed softly. "Did you miss me that much?" "Maybe," he said, his eyes twinkling. "Or maybe I just like seeing you smile." For the first time in a long while, Zawadi felt seen. Malik always had a way of making her forget her troubles, but she had no idea that this man, this simple shopkeeper, was hiding a secret that will shake her world. Zawadi's cheek warmed at Malik's words, but before she could respond, a loud voice interrupted their moment. "Zawadi, what are you doing here laughing like a fool?" She turned sharply and met the piercing glare of her stepmother, who stood a few meters away with Amani. Amani smirked while her mother folded her arms, looking at Zawadi as if she were an insect. I was buying groceries," Zawadi stammered, holding up the shopping list like a shield. Her stepmother's eyes flickered to Malik. "So this is the shopkeeper you waste your time with? My dear, if you must embarrass us, at least choose someone better." Amani giggled. "A shopkeeper, Zawadi? Seriously?" Malik's expression remained calm, but something dark flashed in his eyes. He turned to Zawadi. "I'll pack your things." His voice was steady and affected. Zawadi's stepmother scoffed. "Don't bother. Let her carry them herself. She needs to learn a place in life." She grabbed Amani's hand and walked away, muttering insult under her breath. Zawadi's hand shook as she took the groceries from Malik. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "Why are you apologizing?" he asked, leaning closer. She looked away. "Because they insulted you." Malik chuckled softly. "I don't care what they think. I know who I am." There was something about the way he said it, so confident, so sure of himself, that made her pause. For a shopkeeper, he carried himself like a man who won the world. If only she knew. Days turned into weeks, and Zawadi found herself spending more time at Malik's shop. He became her escape from the cruelty at home, her peace in the storm. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Malik took her hands in his. "Zawadi, I want to marry you," she gasped. "What?" "I don't want you to suffer in that house anymore," he said, his voice full of emotion. "I love you. Let me take care of you." Tears welled in Zawadi's eyes. No one had ever said those words to her before, but when she told her family, they also erupted into laughter. "Marry a shopkeeper?" Amani sneered. "Even for you this is embarrassing." Her father, once a protector, shook his head in disappointment. "Do whatever you want, but don't expect me to give my blessing." Her stepmother smiled cruelly. "Tell your husband not to bother with the dowry. A beggar like you isn't worth a single coin." Zawadi clenched her fist. "One day you'll regret this." Little did they know their words would soon come back to haunt them. The day Zawadi left her father's house, there was no celebration, no songs, no ululation, no joyful tears. She packed a few clothes into a small bag and stepped outside. No one stopped her. No one even looked away. Malik was waiting for her at the roadside, his eyes full of silent promises. When she reached him, he gently took her bag and held her hand. "Are you ready?" he asked. Zawadi took one last look at the house where she had suffered so much, the house where she had once felt love. "I've been ready my whole life," she whispered. Together, they walked away. Her family thought she was running into a life of suffering. They expected her to come crawling back, begging for food, for shelter. They had no idea what fate had in store. Zawadi sat on the edge of the small wooden bed, her eyes scanning the single-room house now she called home. The walls were plain, the floor made of cement, and the furniture, if one could call it that, consisted of a tiny table, 2 chairs, and a cupboard that barely closed. It was nothing like the mansion she had grown up in. Malik sat beside her, watching her closely. "I know this is not what you are used to," he said softly, "but I promise I'll do everything I can to take care of you." Zawadi turned to him, her tears brimming with emotion. "I didn't marry you for wealth, Malik. I married you because you make me happy." A slow smile spread across his lips. "And I'll spend my life making sure you stay that way." The first few weeks were tough. Money was tight and they ate simple meals, sometimes just tea and bread, sometimes ugali with little soup. Zawadi, who had once eaten meals prepared by professional chefs, now found herself cooking in a tiny corner kitchen, but despite the struggle, she was happy. Every morning, she woke up beside a man who loved her. She helped him run the shop, arranging goods, serving customers, and laughing at his endless jokes. At night when they lay in bed, Malik would stroke her hair and whisper stories about his childhood, his dreams, and the life he wanted to give her. She had lost material wealth but gained something for a greater peace. Little did she know, her days of struggle were numbered. Zawadi woke up one morning feeling strange. A sharp wave of nausea hit her the moment she stood up, forcing her to rush outside. She barely made it before vomiting behind the house. Malik rushed to her side, his face filled with concern. "Zawadi, are you okay?" She wiped her mouth, breathing heavily. She felt weak, her legs trembled beneath her. Then suddenly a thought struck her. She slowly turned to Malik, her heart pounding. "Malik, I think I'm pregnant." His eyes widened. "Are you sure?" She nodded, tears forming in her eyes. Malik let out a loud laugh and lifted her off her feet, spinning her around. "Zawadi, you've just met the happiest man alive." For the rest of the day, he couldn't stop smiling. He treated her like a queen, refusing to let her lift a finger. "I'll take care of you and our child, he promised. You won't have to worry about anything." Zawadi believed him. She had no idea what he truly meant. A few weeks later, Zawadi was sitting outside their small house, enjoying the evening breeze when Malik approached her with a playful smile. "Close your eyes," he said. She raised an eyebrow. "Why?" "Just trust me." She sighed out and obeyed. "Now take my hand and walk with me," he said, guiding her a few steps forward. Her heart raced with anticipation. "Malik, what are you up to?" "Okay, open your eyes." Zawadi slowly opened her eyes and gasped. A brand new Porsche stood in front of her, its sleek black body gleaming under the evening sun. She staggered back, her hands flying to her mouth. "Malik, whose car is this?" He chuckled. "Yours." Her knees nearly gave way. "Malik, stop joking." "I'm not joking," he said calmly. Zawadi's mind spun. A shopkeeper buying a Porsche. It didn't make sense. She turned to him, her voice barely above a whisper. "Malik, where did you get the money from?" Malik exhaled deeply. "Zawadi, there's something I need to tell you." Her heart pounded. "What is it?" He hesitated, then said the words that will change everything. "I'm not who you think I am." Zawadi felt like the ground had been ripped from beneath her feet. "What do you mean you're not who I think you are?" she asked, her voice shaking. Malik ran a hand through his hair. "I never lied to you, Zawadi. I just never told you the full truth." She folded her arms. "I'm listening." He took a deep breath. "I'm not a poor shopkeeper. I'm a billionaire." Zawadi blinked. "What?" "I own several businesses, including real estate, transport companies, and international investment. The shop was just a disguise." Her head spun. "A disguise? Why will you pretend to be poor?" Malik sighed. "Because women have taken advantage of me before. They love my money, not me. So I decided to hide my wealth and see who will really love me for who I am." Tears welled up in Zawadi's eyes. "And you chose me?" Malik capped her face. "I didn't just choose you, Zawadi. I fell in love with you. Your kindness, your strength, your heart. You loved me when you thought I had nothing. And now I want to give you everything." Zawadi felt a lump in her throat. "Malik, I don't even know what to say." "Then don't say anything," he whispered, pulling her into his arms. "Just let me take care of you the way you deserve." For the first time in her life, Zawadi realized she had married the richest man she had ever known, and soon the people who had mocked her would find out too. The news spread like a wildfire. Zawadi's former home was buzzing with gossip. Did you hear that the poor shopkeeper is actually a billionaire? Amani nearly choked on her juice when she heard it. What? That's impossible. A mother who had once mocked Malik turned pale. Are you sure? The neighbor nodded eagerly. Not only is he rich, but he just bought Zawadi a Porsche. That girl is living in wealth. Amani clenched her fist. She must be lying. There's no way. Just then, her father entered the room, his face sad. He had heard the same news, and suddenly guilt crashed down on him. His daughter, the one he had abandoned, mistreated, and humiliated, was now living a life of luxury. While they, despite all their wealth, were still stuck in the same place, a deep sickness settled in his stomach. He had lost Zawadi forever. Zawadi's father sat on the edge of his bed, his hands shaking as he held his phone. He had dialed Zawadi's number multiple times, but she never picked up. Try again, Amani's mother urged. I have, he whispered. She won't answer. The truth weighed heavily on him. He had abandoned his own daughter, treated her like a burden, while the man they all had mocked had given her the life they never thought possible. Maybe if we go to her house, Amani started. How will you even find her? Her mother cut in bitterly. We don't even know where she lives now. Amani stomped her foot in frustration. We need to do something. She's rich now. She can help us. Zawadi's father sighed, his body trembling. He had never felt this kind of regret before. His daughter had finally escaped his cruelty, and now she had no reason to look back, but he wasn't ready to give up just yet. Meanwhile, Zawadi was experiencing a life she had only dreamed of. Malik had taken her shopping in one of the most exclusive malls in the city. Pick whatever you want, he told her with a smile. She hesitated, still adjusting to this new reality. Malik, I don't need too much. You deserve it, he interrupted. All those years you suffered, let me make it up to you. Zawadi bit her lip. For so long, she had been forced to beg for simple things, new clothes, good food, even basic respect. And now, here she was surrounded by a wealthy man who wanted nothing more than to spoil her. For the first time, she allowed herself to embrace it. By the end of the shopping trip, she had bags full of designer dresses, perfumes, and jewelry. When they got home, Malik handed her a set of keys. She frowned. What's this? Come and see. He led her outside, where a brand new mansion stood before her. Zawadi's breath caught. Malik, this can't be ours. He wrapped an arm around her waist. It is. Welcome home, my love. Tears filled her eyes. The girl who had once been treated as a maid now lived in a palace. A week later, Zawadi and Malik were having breakfast when the security guard called. Madam, he said, you have visitors. Zawadi frowned. Visitors? Your father and your stepmother, should I let them in? Her breath itched. She wasn't ready for this. What do they want? She whispered. Malik placed her comforting hands on hers. It's your decision, love. You don't have to see them if you don't want to. Zawadi clenched her jaw. These were the same people who had laughed at her suffering, who had treated her like she was worthless, and now they had the audacity to show up. She took a deep breath. Let them in. When Zawadi's father and stepmother stepped into the mansion, their jaws dropped. The floors were made of marble, the walls adorned with expensive artwork, and the air smelled of luxury. Zawadi stood at the top of the grand staircase, watching them coldly. She had dreamed of this moment. Her father cleared his throat. Zawadi, my daughter, we don't. She cut him off. He flinched. She walked down slowly, her eyes clicking against the polished floor. You never called me your daughter before. What changed? Mani's mother forced a smile. My dear, we made mistake, but we are still family. Zawadi let out a bitter laugh. Family? The same family that made me suffer while Amani lived like a princess? The same family that mocked me for marrying Malik? Her father's face crumbled. Zawadi, please, I know we were wrong, but I regret everything. If I could take it back, but you can't, she snapped. Her stepmother spoke next. We just want to be part of your life again. We miss you. Zawadi folded her arms. You miss me? Or do you miss what I can do for you now that I am rich? Her father opened his mouth, but no words came out. Zawadi sighed. I'll think about it, but don't expect things to be the same. She turned on her heel and walked away, leaving them standing there, desperate and ashamed. Zawadi spent the next few days in deep thought. She had a decision to make. Malik was echoed in her mind. You don't owe them anything. Forgiveness is for your peace, not theirs. That evening, she sat across from Malik at the dinner table. I want to test them, she said. Malik raised an eyebrow. How? She smirked. I want to see if they truly regret their actions or if they're just here for money. The next morning, she called her father. Dad, I've thought about it. If you truly regret what you did, prove it. Anything, my daughter, he responded eagerly. I need help at the new orphanage I'm building in Oyani. Hard work. I won't pay you. Zawadi could hear stepmother whispering in the background. Of course, he finally said it. Zawadi smirked. Let's see if you really mean that. Zawadi and Malik had been working on an orphanage to help poor children, something she had always dreamed of. The next day, she arrived at the construction site, only to find Amani and her mother sitting under a tree complaining. This sun is too hot, Amani said. Her mother wiped sweat from her face. Zawadi is rich. Why will he suffer like this? Zawadi folded her arms. You can leave if it's too hard. Her father, however, was lifting bricks with the workers, his face covered in sweat. He looked up and met her gaze, a silent plea in his eyes. For the first time, Zawadi saw something real. Guilt. Maybe he truly regretted, but her stepmother and Amani, they hadn't changed. They will never. That night, Zawadi sat across from her family in a mansion. She took a deep breath. I've seen enough. Her father swallowed hard. Daughter, please. She raised her hand. Dad, I believe you regret what you did, but your wife and Amani, they don't. They're here for money, not for me. Her stepmother scoffed. After everything we did for you, Zawadi, you are ungrateful. Zawadi let out a bitter laugh. Ungrateful? Do you mean the years I was treated like a maid, or the times you watched me suffer and did nothing? Amani rolled her eyes. Stop acting like a saint. You are rich now, so what's the problem? Zawadi's heart hardened. The problem is that I don't trust you. She stood up. From this moment, Amani and your mother are banned from my life. Her stepmother gasped. You can't do this. Zawadi turned to her father. You can stay in my life, but only if you prove you're different. Her father's face crumbled. I will, my daughter. I swear it. Zawadi walked to the door and pointed. Amani, stepmother, out! They stormed out furious. Zawadi's heart felt lighter. For the first time, she had control over her own life. Months passed and Zawadi focused on her new life. She was happier than ever. The orphanage was almost finished and she had found purpose in helping others. One evening, Malik walked in with an envelope. Your glowing love, he said, handing it to her. What is this? She opened it and gasped. It was the deed to a 5-star restaurant. For you, Malik said softly. You've always wanted to own a business. Zawadi's eyes filled with tears. Malik, I don't know what to say. Say yes, he teased. She laughed, throwing her arms around him. Life had given her pain, but it had also given her love. One afternoon, Zawadi received a call. It was the hospital. Her father had collapsed. Rushing to his bedside, she found him weak, his eyes filled with tears. I don't deserve your kindness, he whispered. Zawadi's heart climbed. Despite everything, he was still her father. You hurt me, she admitted, but I see that you're trying. That's all that matters now. A single tear slipped down his cheek. I don't deserve you, my daughter. She squeezed his hand. Then spend the rest of your life making it up to me. Zawadi sat in a luxurious home, watching Amani's latest attempt to reach her. Voicemail, text messages, even fake apologies. She smiled, deleting them all. Her greatest revenge was living well, happier, richer, and free from their control. As Malik pulled her into a warm embrace, she knew one thing for sure. Her story had a happy ending, and she had written it herself. This story teaches that jealousy, greed, and favoritism can destroy families, but resilience, self-worth, and choosing the right people can rebuild a better life. Zawadi's story teaches that not everyone who calls you family truly loves you. Some people will mistreat you when they feel superior, but will regret it when the tables turn. However, the best revenge is not seeking payback. It is succeeding, choosing happiness, and cutting off toxic people. It also highlights that true love and genuine relationships are based on character, not wealth or status. Those who judge others by their current situation often live to regret it when they realize they underestimated the wrong person. Above all, forgiveness is powerful, but it should be given wisely, only to those who truly change, not those who fake regret to gain access to your success. Thank you so much for watching. Your support means everything. Don't forget to subscribe, like and share. Stay tuned for more exciting tales coming your way. See you in the next one, besties. Mwah.